Okay, picture the scene. It's June 2025. We're in LA at the UCLA graduation ceremony. It is hot. You know, that kind of aggressive graduation heat?
Oh, yeah. The kind with a polyester gown just sticks to you. I know it well.
Exactly. The sun is just beating down, thousands of people packed into a stadium, and the air is, heavy. It feels thick with humidity and, I guess, anticipation.
A lot of anticipation.
So the ceremony is dragging on. You know how it is. They're calling name after name. And then this student from the computational biology department walks across the stage. But instead of the usual wave to mom and dad, the huge jumbotron behind them just lights up.
And this is the moment, right? This is a clip that went completely viral for like 48 hours straight.
It was everywhere, and it wasn't a photo of their friends or a thank you to their parents. It was this, scrolling wall of text and code, almost like The Matrix,
Generated by ChatGPT.
The whole thing. He'd projected his entire thesis methodology, specifically highlighting the parts that were generated by AI, right there for everyone to see.
And the crowd's reaction is the really important part here.
Yeah.
That's the data point we need to focus on.
They went nuts. They cheered. I mean, this wasn't a boo, you cheated kind of moment.
Not at all.
It was a celebration of efficiency. It was like the student was saying, look how I gamed the system. And thousands of people were yelling back, yeah, good for you. You figured it out.
And that cheer, that reaction, that's the signal. That's what sociologists are calling the graduation shock. It marks this huge cultural shift from, seeing these tools as cheating to seeing them as high leverage.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, that cheer from the crowd is kind of terrifying if you know what's actually happening just beneath the surface.
Terrifying. Why? Because we're all just getting lazy.
It's deeper than that. It signals what we're going to talk about today. The end of the beginner. That's really the core theme. We've got a huge stack of sources to get through, a 2026 predictions report from PackBack, some very dense neuroscience papers on something called the SLENET PSE model, and economic data on what analysts are calling the zero learning curve economy.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to connect all those dots. Because look, on the surface, skipping the grunt work, skipping the beginner phase, it sounds fantastic. Nobody likes being a beginner.
It's awful.
You feel stupid, you're slow, you make all these mistakes. So if AI can just let us skip right to the finish line, what's the problem? Why is that a bad thing?
It sounds like a perfect world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But when you peel back the layers, both neurologically and economically, you start to realize that by removing the struggle, we might actually be breaking the very mechanism that creates expertise in the first place.
So we're talking about the broken ladder and the workforce, and I guess most importantly for anyone listening, how you survive it. All right, so let's start with the brain, the cognitive cost of easy. Because the pushback I hear all the time, and I've said this myself at dinner parties, I'll admit it, is the calculator argument.
Yes, the calculator argument.
Right. We don't do long division by hand anymore. We have calculators. Civilization didn't collapse. We're fine. So why is ChatGPT any different?
And that is the absolute perfect place to start, because that is the calculator fallacy. It's the most dangerous, kind of comforting lie we're telling ourselves right now. It feels right, but it misses the fundamental difference between calculation and generation.
Okay, so break that down for us. Why is it a fallacy?
Well, think about what happens when you use a calculator. You're the pilot, right? The calculator is just the engine. You still have to know math. You need to know the order of operations, the variables, and crucially, you need to know if the answer even makes sense.
Right. If I calculate a 20% tip on a $100 bill and it says $5,000, I know I messed up.
Exactly. You know you made a typo because you have a mental model for what a tip should look like. The calculator amplifies your own reasoning. But generative AI, it replaces the reasoning. When you ask an AI to write a Python script for this or summarize that legal brief, and you don't actually know Python or law, you're stepping into what we call the knowledge void.
The knowledge void, that sounds ominous.
It is. It's a critical distinction. In the knowledge void, you're handing the steering wheel to a complete black box. You're not amplifying your ability. You're just bypassing the cognitive process entirely.
And the calculator is deterministic. 2 + 2 is always 4.
Always. Doesn't have an imagination. But AI is probabilistic. It's just guessing the next most likely word. It can hallucinate. It can make things up.
And we've seen this happen, right? The source material had that example of the consulting firm that delivered a 6-figure report.
And it cited academic papers that just didn't exist. They were completely fabricated.
But they looked real. The formatting was perfect. The authors' names were right. But the papers themselves were just poof, Made up.
Because the junior analyst who prompted the AI didn't have the domain knowledge to spot the lie. They
Because with a calculator, I can check the work. With AI, if I'm a beginner, I can't.
You can't. And this isn't just about, making mistakes at your job. The neuroscience sources we have suggest this is physically changing the wiring in our brains. It all comes down to a concept called desirable difficulties.
Desirable difficulties. That sounds like the exact opposite of what every app developer in Silicon Valley is trying to achieve. They want frictionless, one click.
And that's the core of the problem. Learning, from a biological standpoint, requires what we call productive struggle. This idea was popularized by Robert Bjork at UCLA. And the basic premise is that for learning to for it to move from your short-term declarative memory, which is just facts you can spit out,
Right.
into your long-term procedural memory, which is that deep intuitive understanding, you have to struggle. You have to wrestle with it.
So it's basically the mental version of no pain, no gain.
It is, 100%. It's that feeling of frustration when you can't quite remember a word or when you've been banging your head against a coding problem for 3 hours. That friction, that struggle is the signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important. Pay attention.
And that's what builds the neural pathways.
It stimulates the production of myelin, which is like the insulation around your neural pathways.
Yeah.
It makes the signal travel faster and more efficiently next time. So when AI makes that whole process frictionless.
You get what the report calls the fluency trap.
Exactly. The process feels so smooth. You ask the AI, it gives you a perfect answer, and you nod and go, yep, I get it. Makes total sense. You feel like a genius. You feel fluent.
But you haven't actually learned anything.
Nothing, because there was no struggle, there's no retention. The knowledge just evaporates the second you close the browser tab.
And we have actual data on this now from 2025, right? The EEG studies.
We do, and the numbers are pretty stark. They use these EEG caps to measure brain connectivity while people were doing complex problem-solving tasks. And they found that the brain's connectivity scales down in direct proportion to how much AI assistance they were getting.
So wait, the more the AI helps, the less your brain actually works.
It's like taking the elevator instead of the stairs and then wondering why your legs aren't getting any stronger. It's that simple.
Wow. And there was a specific correlation mentioned?
There was. They found a correlation of a negative 0.68 between frequent AI usage and scores on independent critical thinking tests.
Negative 0.68.
Yeah. I mean, in social sciences, a correlation of 0.3 is considered significant. Negative 0.68 it's a landslide. It's not a small effect.
That's pretty depressing, actually. It's the memory paradox. As our external digital brains get smarter, our internal biological ones just start to atrophy.
We're outsourcing our own cognition. And that brings us directly to the economic consequences. Because what happens to the job market when you have an entire generation of workers who have outsourced their thinking, who never went through that struggle?
And this is where we get into the broken ladder theory.
Exactly. I mean, think about how you learned your job, your first 2 years.
Yeah.
How did you get good at what you do?
Oh, I did the grunt work. I transcribed interviews, summarized boring press releases, fetched coffee. I mean, I checked facts on spreadsheets until my eyes were blurry.
You paid your dues. But that dues paying, it wasn't just hazing, right? It served a real function. It was an apprenticeship. By summarizing that boring press release, you learned how a press release is structured.
Right. By writing the basic code, you learned the syntax.
That is what we call codified knowledge. Routine, predictable tasks. And that is exactly what AI is perfect at.
It's better than a human junior at it. It's faster, cheaper, and it doesn't need a lunch break.
So companies are doing the logical thing. They're automating the juniors. We've got data from the Stanford Digital Economy Lab. They tracked hiring for early career workers, so ages 22 to 25, in jobs that are highly exposed to AI.
And what was the drop?
A 13% decline in hiring over the last year.
13%. That's a huge number. That's tens of thousands of graduates who can't get that first rung on the ladder.
But here's the other side of that coin. For older workers, ages 35 to 49, in the exact same roles,
Let me guess, it went up.
it went up by 9%.
So the seniors are safer than ever, but the juniors are just locked out.
The seniors are being leveraged. A senior software architect can now do the work of a whole team of juniors because they're using AI to generate all the boilerplate code. But this creates the junior call. If you cut off the bottom rung of the ladder,
How does anyone get to the top?
they don't. And that creates a massive competency crisis 5 or 10 years from now. If nobody does the grunt work today, Where do your senior leaders come from in 2035?
It's like you're eating your own seed corn. You're boosting productivity today by sacrificing your experts of tomorrow.
And you lose what the report calls the auditor's instinct, that gut feeling an expert gets when something just looks wrong.
Hmm.
You only develop that intuition by manually looking at thousands of examples.
Mm-hmm.
If you skip that whole process, you're flying blind. You don't know when the machine is lying to you because you never did the truth checking yourself.
Okay. Let's zoom in on a specific industry. The source material spends a lot of time on software engineering, calling it the canary in the coal mine.
It really is. Coding is where the rubber meets the road because the feedback loops are so immediate. You write code, it either runs or it breaks. There's not a lot of gray area.
I was reading about this idea of the 70% problem. This felt really relatable, even for people who don't code. Can you break that down?
Sure. So tools like GitHub Copilot,
Hmm.
they are incredible. They can get you, say, 70% of the way to a finished product in seconds. It's like magic. It'll set up the server, write the basic functions, structure the database.
Sounds amazing. I mean, who doesn't want 70% of their job done for them?
It is amazing. But the last mile, that final 30%, that's where all the pain is. That's the debugging, the weird edge cases, the security flaws, the integration with that ancient legacy system that nobody understands. And here's the thing. That last 30% is exponentially harder than the first 70.
And if you didn't write that first 70% yourself, trying to fix the last 30 must be a complete nightmare.
It's hell. It's like trying to edit a book that was written in a language you only kind of understand. You're debugging code that isn't really yours. It doesn't have any authorial intent you can follow. You don't know why the AI chose that specific library or that particular logic.
The stats in the report were pretty wild. Something like 25% of all new code at places like Amazon and Microsoft is now AI generated.
It's a massive amount of synthetic code flooding the system. And it completely changes the job description. We're seeing this big shift away from developer towards system architect.
So you're not laying the bricks anymore. You're the foreman telling the robots where to lay them.
That's a great way to put it. You're managing a fleet of what they're calling agentic AI.
Agentic AI. That term keeps popping up. How is that different from, a simple chatbot?
A chatbot is passive. It waits for you. You ask a question, it gives an answer. An agent has agency. You give it a high-level goal, like build a landing page for our new product.
And it just does it?
It figures out the steps. It plans. It writes the code. It runs the code. It sees an error. It Googles the error. It fixes the code, and it tries again. It operates in this constant loop. Plan, execute, check, retry. All without you.
So I'm not typing code anymore. I'm just telling a squad of AI agents what to build and then, I guess, checking their work.
Ideally, yes. But that brings us right back to the contradiction, doesn't it? If you never learned how to build a landing page yourself, how on earth can you evaluate if the agent did a good job?
You can't. You're just hoping for the best, crossing your fingers and trusting the machine.
And this leads us to what the researchers are calling the expertise paradox.
Oh, I like a good paradox. Break this one down for me.
Okay, so you would assume, logically, that for an expert, AI makes life easier. You could just coast. You already know your stuff. So the AI just helps you go faster.
Right. It's your super intern.
You'd think so. But the research shows the complete opposite. The more expertise you have in a domain, the more cognitive effort you actually expend when you're using AI tools.
Wait, what? Experts work harder. That seems so counterintuitive.
It does, until you think about the concept of dual awareness. A novice looks at the AI's output and thinks, looks great, it has paragraphs, it uses big words, it sounds smart. They trust it. Their cognitive load is actually very low.
But the expert.
The expert is running a constant audit in their head. They're looking at the output and thinking, okay, the structure's fine, but that variable name is confusing, and this logic loop is inefficient, and it completely missed this security patch from last week, and the tone is a little off for our brand.
So they're constantly fact-checking. They're monitoring the subject matter and the AI's potential for error at the same time.
It's the difference between being a passenger in a taxi and teaching a teenager how to drive.
That is a perfect analogy.
Riding in the taxi is low effort. You can just close your eyes. Teaching a teenager to drive is exhausting because you have to watch the road and watch the teenager and be ready to grab the wheel at any second.
The source material breaks this down into 4 user types, which I found really useful for sort of, figuring out where you might sit.
Yes, it's a great framework for understanding who wins and who loses here.
So quadrant 1 is the novice's dilemma. This is someone with low domain expertise and low AI knowledge.
These are the victims. These are the people who are going to get fired for submitting a report with hallucinated facts. They just believe the machine because they don't know any better?
Then you have the expert's advantage. High domain expertise, but maybe they're not great with the AI tools yet.
They're safe, but they're slow. They'll struggle to keep up with the pace of the market, but the quality of their work will be top-notch. They're like the artisan craftsmen in the age of the factory.
Okay, then there's the false confidence trap. This one feels really dangerous. This is someone with high AI knowledge. They're a prompt wizard, but they have low domain expertise.
This is the prompt engineer who thinks they can replace a lawyer. They can make the output look and sound incredibly professional. The formatting is perfect, the tone is right, but the content is either hollow or just flat out wrong.
This is what creates that market for lemons problem, right?
Exactly. It's from that famous economics paper about used cars. If buyers can't tell the difference between a good car, a peach, and a bad one, a lemon, then the value of all used cars goes down because nobody trusts the market.
The prompt engineer is just polishing a lemon until it looks shiny.
They're flooding the market with lemons, which means the only place you want to be is the fourth quadrant, the dual expertise challenge.
High domain expertise and high AI knowledge, the gold standard.
These are the people who can direct the orchestra. They know the music inside and out, and they know how to conduct. They can spot a hallucination from a mile away, and they know how to prompt the AI to fix its own mistake.
So if we accept that a lot of these routine technical skills are being automated, where is the value shifting? What should people actually be learning?
This is the big pivot. And for a lot of people who focused on hard skills, this might be a little tough to hear. We are seeing a massive resurgence in the value of so-called soft skills.
I've always hated that term soft skills. It makes them sound optional.
I agree. Let's call them human premium skills. The 2025 Autodesk Jobs Report had this fascinating statistic. Design skills have now overtaken technical engineering expertise as the #1 most in-demand skill in AI-related job listings.
Design, you mean like making things look pretty with Photoshop?
No, design in a much broader sense. Design thinking, problem framing, empathy, understanding the end user. The AI can generate the code, the text, the image, but it is terrible at figuring out the why.
Why are we even building this? Who is it for? Does it solve a real human problem?
Exactly. The AI is an incredible doer, but it's a terrible planner. The value is in the planning, the strategy, the human insight.
Speaking of value, let's talk about money. There's one specific role the report highlights that is seeing, just bonkers salary growth.
The AI product manager, or AI PM.
The numbers you see here, I honestly had to double check them. I thought they had to be typos.
They're staggering. AI PMs are earning anywhere from 20 to 80% more than their traditional product manager counterparts. We're seeing senior roles listed at $400,000, even $650,000.
And director level.
Can go up to $800,000.
That's CEO money. Why? Is it just a bubble?
It's pure scarcity. There are probably fewer than 10,000 people on the planet right now who are genuinely qualified to do this job well.
Oh, what do they actually do? How is it different from normal product management?
It's that dual expertise we were just talking about. You still have to manage a backlog and talk to customers, yes. But you also need to understand things like AI observability. How do you even measure if a chatbot is good? It's completely subjective. You have to design evaluation frameworks, monitor for drift, understand token costs.
So it's a technical role, a product role, and a strategy role all rolled into one.
And it requires a very high tolerance for risk. You're building products on foundations that are constantly shifting. The underlying AI models change every 3 months. You have to be ready to pivot constantly.
And we're seeing other new titles pop up too, like AI orchestrator.
That's my favorite. It goes right back to that conductor analogy. You're not playing a single instrument. You're coordinating a dozen different specialized AI agents, one for research, one for drafting, one for coding, and making sure they all play together in harmony. The human becomes the manager of the agents.
So, okay, we have this potential brain drain from the fluency trap. We have a broken ladder in the job market. We have this tiny elite of AI PMs making huge money while graduates are locked out. This whole situation sounds pretty unstable.
It is unstable. We're in a transition period, and those are always chaotic.
So what on earth happens to education? If the essay is basically dead as a way to assess learning, what do schools do? How do you teach someone when they can just generate the homework.
Well, the first reaction, as you'd expect, was just panic. Ban ChatGPT. We need AI detectors. Let's go back to Blue Book exams.
Right, and we know the detectors don't really work. They're notoriously unreliable.
They're a coin toss at best. So the smarter schools are moving from panic to pedagogy. They're realizing they have to change what they grade. They can no longer grade the final output because the output has been commoditized. They have to grade the process.
The report talked about the FFT TOML. This one felt really practical to me.
It is. It's a way of breaking assessment down into 4 layers to make sure the human is still in the loop. So F is for fundamental skills.
This is the no calculators allowed part of the test.
Exactly. No electronics,
Yeah.
pen and paper. In a controlled, proctored environment, can you prove you know the absolute basics? Can you write a coherent sentence without an algorithm's help?
The take-home essay is dead.
It has to be. Then you get to A, for applied projects.
And this is the complete opposite. Go nuts with the AI.
Use all the tools you want. But because you have these incredible tools, the bar for what you produce should be sky high. Don't just write an essay. Build a working application. Design an entire marketing campaign.
Okay, then C is for conceptual understanding.
The oral defense. This is the ultimate cheat detector. You have to stand in front of a professor and they grill you. Why did you choose this variable? Explain this paragraph to me. How does this idea connect to what we learned last week?
If you didn't do the work, you can't defend it. It's that simple.
You can't bluff your way through an oral exam. And finally, T is for thinking critically.
This is where you turn the AI into a sparring partner.
Right. The assignment becomes something like, here is an AI-generated essay on the French Revolution. I know for a fact it contains 3 subtle historical errors and 1 major bias. Your job is to find them and correct them.
That's brilliant. You're grading the student on their ability to audit the machine.
Which is the single most important skill they're going to need in the real world. You're training them to be those expert auditors we've been talking about.
But on a day-to-day basis, how do we actually learn with these tools without letting them turn our brains to mush? The neuroscience papers propose the Sena-PC model. This felt like a user manual for our brains in this new era.
That's exactly what it is. It's a framework for intentionally adding that desirable difficulty back into the learning process.
So walk us through it. SYNAPSE, what's the first step?
S is for sensory input. Use the AI to spark your curiosity. Ask it for weird analogies. Ask it to explain quantum physics as if you're a 5-year-old. Get excited, get interested, prime the pump.
But don't stop there.
No, that's just entertainment. Step 2 is N, network adaptation. This is the struggle part. Don't ask the AI for the final answer. Ask it for a hint.
Treat it like a tutor, not an oracle.
Exactly. If you're stuck on a coding problem, don't say fix my code. Say, I'm getting this error. Can you give me a clue about what concept I might be misunderstanding?
That takes a lot of discipline. It's so tempting to just ask for the answer.
It does. But that discipline is what builds a myelin. Step 3 is P, participation. This is metacognition. Actively ask yourself, why did the AI say that? Do I agree with its reasoning? Challenge it. Assume it might be wrong.
And the last one, consolidation.
Consolidation. Get off the screen. Do something physical with the knowledge. Try to explain the concept to a friend over dinner. Sketch it out on a whiteboard. You have to embody the knowledge to really lock it into that deep procedural memory.
Looking ahead, the future curriculum section of the report had one prediction that really caught my eye. It said that student perception of AI might actually start to turn negative.
I think this is inevitable. Right now, it's the cool, neat thing that gets you out of doing your homework. It feels a bit rebellious. But give it another year or 2.
When literally everyone is using it for everything.
It becomes lame. It becomes cringe. It starts to signal incompetence. If you get an email that is so obviously written by ChatGPT, it has that certain Tapestry and Delve vibe.
Yeah.
The person reading it is going to think, you couldn't be bothered to write this yourself. Or worse, you aren't smart enough to write this yourself.
So using AI for basic communication becomes a signal of low status.
Exactly. Authentic, maybe slightly imperfect, human communication becomes a luxury good. We'll start to value the typos and the slight awkwardness because it proves a real human was on the other end.
Wow, we have covered a huge amount of ground here. From that graduation ceremony, to the rewiring of our brains, to the broken ladder in the job market, and finally to these new models for education.
It's a lot to process, for sure.
But it seems like the central theme is this: the beginner phase. That slow, awkward, painful part of learning where you fall down a lot. That whole phase is being paved over by technology.
The hiking trail is being replaced with a superhighway.
But we can't let mastery die along with it.
We can't. The learning curve hasn't disappeared. It's just moved. It's moved to a much higher altitude. The helicopter drops you off halfway up the mountain now.
But the summit is higher than it's ever been.
And the air's a lot thinner up there. If you don't have the cognitive muscles, which you only build on that lower part of the climb, you're not going to survive. We have to intentionally, artificially add that productive struggle back into our lives.
That's a really provocative thought. In a world that is obsessed with removing every last bit of friction, we have to choose to add it back in just to save our own minds.
We have to choose to take the stairs. It's the only way to keep the human in the loop.
So I guess that's our final question for you, the listener. In your own work, in your own learning, where are you letting the AI do the thinking for you? Where are you handing over the keys?
And more importantly, are you preparing yourself to become the auditor of the machine? Or will you just be its operator?
Because the operator is replaceable, the auditor is not.
Precisely.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.